Hello and welcome to World Today. I'm Geeta Mohan. Let's begin with some breaking news coming in at this hour. Now, India takes Pahalgam terror attack to the United Nations Security Council. That's news that's just coming in. That's breaking news. Indian delegation led by Indian envoy to the United Nations, Ambassador P. Harish, and armed with detailed dossier of Pahalgam terror attack, will be meeting monitoring team of the 1267 Sanctions Committee, that's the Al-Qaeda Sanctions Committee, and other countries at the United Nations Security Council. It's a cross-ministerial delegation that is in New York and will be meeting with the United Nations Security Council 1267 Al-Qaeda Sanctions Committee, the monitoring team. There will also be meetings with United Nations Office of Counterterrorism and Counterterrorism Committee, Executive Directorate. So that's big news coming in at this hour. Top of the hour, India goes to the UNSC for the Pahalgam terror attack. US President Donald Trump is full of himself, and there seems to be no end to his boastings, claims which are absolutely baseless, backed with no evidence. Pakistan had suffered heavy military losses following India's launch of Operation Sindoor to avenge the killing of the innocents in the Pahalgam terror attack. India's precision strikes had obliterated at least 100 terrorists and their hubs in Pakistan. But Trump claims to have used trade threats to force India to stop Operation Sindoor. India has reiterated its rejection of US President's offer of mediation in the dispute with Pakistan and over Jammu and Kashmir, or particularly Kashmir. India said it has always maintained a long-standing national position that any third-party intervention on the issue of Kashmir will not be allowed. But President Trump is unrelenting. During his visit to Saudi Arabia, he said his administration brokered a historic ceasefire between India and Pakistan and said he used trade to stop Operation Sindoor. In fact, the truth is, India plastered Air Force bases of Pakistan. India has never approached the present or any earlier US administration to solve differences with Pakistan. Amid Trump's repeated claims that he had mediated a ceasefire, the government reiterated the understanding between India and Pakistan was reached after the Pakistani DGMO, mind it was Pakistan, approached his Indian counterpart. The government also informed countries in touch with both India and Pakistan that India will respond if Pakistan strikes. Trump, who came into power riding on promises to end war in the Middle East, that's West Asia, and bring peace to Ukraine-Russia war, has not even reached close to his promises made during campaign. His dilly-dallying and change in his stance regarding wars in West Asia and Europe have led the world leaders to question whether if his promises to end the war are actually for real or not. But Trump claims that he averted a nuclear war between India and Pakistan. India maintains that its military action was entirely in the conventional domain, that Indian armed forces did not hit any of the nuclear sites, particularly at Kirana Hills, thus debunking reports of radioactive leaks there. Prime Minister Modi said India will not tolerate any nuclear blackmail by Pakistan.
Just days ago, my administration successfully brokered a historic ceasefire to stop the escalating violence between India and Pakistan. And I used trade to a large extent to do it. I said, fellas, come on, let's make a deal. Let's do some trading. Let's not trade nuclear missiles. Let's trade the things that you make so beautifully. And they both have very powerful leaders, very strong leaders, good leaders, smart leaders. And it all stopped. Hopefully it'll remain that way, but it all stopped. I was very proud of Marco Rubio and all of the people that worked so hard.
भारत की आक्रामक कार्रवाई के बाद पाकिस्तान बचने के रास्ते खोजने लगा। पाकिस्तान दुनिया भर में तनाव कम करने के लिए गुहार लगा रहा था और बुरी तरह पीटने के बाद इसी मजबूरी में 10 मई की दोपहर को पाकिस्तानी सेना ने हमारे डीजीएमओ को संपर्क किया, तब तक हम आतंकवाद के इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर को बड़े पैमाने पर तबाह कर चुके थे। जब पाकिस्तान की तरफ से गुहार लगाई गई, पाकिस्तान की तरफ से जब ये कहा गया कि उसकी ओर से आगे कोई आतंकी गतिविधि और सैन्य दुस्साहस नहीं दिखाया जाएगा, तो भारत ने भी उस पर विचार किया। मैं आज विश्व समुदाय को भी कहूंगा, हमारी घोषित नीति रही है, अगर पाकिस्तान से बात होगी तो टेररिज्म पर ही होगी। अगर पाकिस्तान से बात होगी तो पाक ऑक्युपाइड कश्मीर पीओके उस पर ही होगी।
And joining me now is Brahma Chilani, strategic affairs expert. Thank you so much, Brahma, for joining me. What do you make of this? How does one handle Donald Trump?
That's a good question, Geeta. I think instead of disputing what Trump is saying, let's take Trump at face value. Let's accept whatever he is saying. Let's accept that he used trade, the threat of trade suspension to compel India to cease military operations. What does that convey? Does it convey that the US can be a reliable partner of India? In fact, Trump confirmed India's worst fear. If the US can use trade to pressure India, can also use the supply of munitions and spares for US origin weapon systems that India has bought as leverage during a war. The image of the US as a reliable strategic partner and arms supplier took a big hit, I must say. It's taken a big hit during Operation Sindoor, thanks to Trump, thanks to his own statements. So let's use the statements to show to show the mirror to Trump and to his administration.
Right, but Brahma, you know, whether it's 1947, 65, 71, even Operation Parakram Kargil, you know that there's a recorded history, that the international community, India, Pakistan can differ in how they see that history, but the international community looks at certain events a certain way. Has Donald Trump managed to capture that narrative? Because look at the standing ovation he gets in Saudi Arabia when he says he's moderated a ceasefire. Like, is that going to be a recorded history that it was a moderated ceasefire despite what India has been saying?
As a journalist, Geeta, you know that if a claim is made and it's not rebutted in time, even fiction becomes fact. When he made that claim on May 10th at 5:30 p.m. Indian time, and India did not dispute that claim that day, it became a fact in terms of the international narrative. Today, after 4 days, the Ministry of External Affairs says that trade never figured in the discussions. You know, it's and the first time we asserted that that it was that Pakistan was under such military pressure from India that it besieged India for ceasefire. That claim, that assertion came 2 days after the ceasefire took effect, when the Prime Minister addressed the nation, right? So the narrative had been set internationally. How do you change a narrative when you don't understand that time is the time is the sense? if you do not rebut, if you do not seek to shape the international narrative, the narrative then gets set. This is what India faces today. And to make matters worse, India's core issue, the issue that triggered the military hostilities, Pakistan's trans-border terrorism,
Right.
that issue is no longer in the international discourse. Trump
In fact,
and other Western leaders are talking about Kashmir as the core issue.
Absolutely. Brahma, in fact, what has really happened over here is that Trump has hyphenated India and Pakistan. The Indian leadership and the Ministry of External Affairs came out and said that that's not really happened, that in fact the world has dehyphenated. But look, he's speaking of the two countries in the same breath, saying both countries have great leaders and that they produce great stuff, so let's do trade together. Briefly, have we lost in this entire battle of narratives?
Well, in fact, he has even called India and Pakistan great nations. So a terrorist state like Pakistan is a great nation. There is a saying, as you know, success has 1,000 fathers, but failure is an orphan. Success brings international respect. The winner's narrative gains currency. But when both sides in a conflict assert that they won, the rest of the world thinks the military hostilities ended in a draw. This results in the pairing of the rival parties, or in the present case, the reaffirmation of India and Pakistan. The issue is this, that we now know from satellite imagery that India wreaked heavy punishment on Pakistan. India severely damaged Pakistan's key air bases. It struck the crown jewel of the Pakistani Air Force, the Noor Khan Air Base in Rawalpindi. But just as we gained the upper hand, just when the Indian Armed Forces had seized the upper hand, this was on May 10th morning, that's when we hit their key air bases. Just when we had the military momentum, India suddenly, abruptly accepted a ceasefire. So we didn't go for the kill. Imagine, had Pakistan seized the upper hand against India militarily, it would have gone for the kill.
Absolutely.
It would have not accepted a ceasefire while it had the momentum. So today we are facing a situation. Even though we all know from objective assessment and from satellite imagery that Pakistani's claims in terms of what they hit, those claims have proven to be largely false, while what India hit in Pakistan, that evidence is for the world to see, and yet we are so late in trying to shape the international narrative, and to make matters worse, we abruptly terminated our military campaign before we could actually obliterate Pakistan military's prestige in the eyes of its own people. Had we left the Pak military humiliated before the Pakistani people, we would have secured peace for years to come. But as things stand today, Geeta, it won't be long before the Pakistani military returns to its old playbook of carrying out cross-border attacks.
And that's when we'll have to see what Trump has to say on Pakistan, that is a great nation with great leaders. Brahma Chelani, thank you so much for joining us here on the network. Now, on his first scheduled foreign trip of his second term, US President Donald Trump has inked a staggering $142 billion arms agreement with Saudi Arabia. Described as the largest defense deal ever, it's not just about military might. It's a strategic play linking firepower with financial clout. From advanced missiles to big-ticket investments. But many are now asking, is America strengthening a crucial ally or fueling a fragile region? Here's a report.
In what is being hailed as the largest defense deal in history, the United States and Saudi Arabia have signed a massive $142 billion arms agreement. The signing took place during US President Donald Trump's official visit to Riyadh. This was his first foreign trip of his second term. The deal includes advanced military systems, air-to-air missiles, weapons and support services. A comprehensive package aimed at upgrading Saudi military capabilities. And it is not just about defense. This visit is part of Trump's broader economic push in the Gulf. He's eyeing billions more in Gulf investment back into the American economy. Saudi Arabia has pledged an investment of $600 billion over 4 years. Trump wanted to raise it to $1 trillion. In the first week of May, Washington also cleared a $3.3 billion missile sale to Saudi Arabia. It featured 1,000 AIM-120C8 advanced air-to-air missiles made by RTX Corps. For now, it seems Trump is doubling down on old Gulf alliances and putting American arms and industry at the heart of his foreign policy. Bureau Report, India Today.
Now, from Saudi Arabia, another important announcement was made. US President Donald Trump announced the complete lifting of US sanctions on Syria, calling it Syria's time to shine. Speaking in Saudi Arabia on his first visit to the region in years, Trump said the move was meant to give Syria a chance at greatness. Now, with the president with an extremist past and no sanctions, is this truly a fresh start for Syria or a gamble that could backfire?
In a stunning policy shift, US President Donald Trump has announced that all American sanctions on Syria will be lifted. Speaking in Saudi Arabia on his first visit to the region since 2020, Trump called it Syria's time to shine.
Great companies are coming in. I will be ordering the cessation of sanctions against Syria in order to give them a chance at greatness.
The move comes nearly 5 months after the ouster of Bashar al-Assad. His decades-long rule left Syria shattered by civil war. The new president, Ahmad al-Shara, once labeled a terrorist by the US, has been pushing for international legitimacy. Sanctions on Syria began in 1979 and intensified during the civil war, freezing assets, banning trade, and isolating the country globally. While aimed at Assad's regime, they left ordinary Syrians with soaring inflation and shortages. But since taking power, Shara has distanced himself from extremist groups and pledged to protect minority rights. The decision followed discussions with key US allies, Saudi Arabia and Turkey, and was welcomed by the United Nations. The UN has long urged the easing of sanctions to enable Syria's reconstruction. For Syrians, this could mark the beginning of a new chapter. It remains to be seen if President Shara delivers on his promises or slips back into Syria's dark past. Bureau Report, India Today.
Joining me now is Dr. Wael Awad, a senior journalist, Syrian himself. Dr. Awad, thank you so much for joining me here on the network. Very interesting turn of events. The geopolitics of the region has changed with the change in government in Syria. Now, there was a time when Donald Trump had said that Assad may have been good for Syria. Does he understand the geopolitics has changed for him to actually lift sanctions against Syria, which is not an Assad Syria, but a Syria that has a very extremist faction that has taken over?
Well, I think he's coming to the region, Gita, with two agendas. One is to make the countries pay loyalty for the American protection. And second is to ensure that the Israeli hegemony in the region will prevail. So therefore, he is here to make $3 trillion in this visit to three major Arab countries. And after that, he was speaking to Al-Shara, and Al-Shara already, because he has been given by the Israeli government the list of conditions for lifting up the sanction on Syria, which include that Israel will be having total control in the southern of Syria. He has to surrender the Golan, which Israel occupied in 1973 war. And also there will be no military bases of Turkey. There will be no citizenship for any mercenaries that he brought along with him, fighting along with him when they toppled the Syrian government. And also there will be no army, regular army. There will be, a weaker army. So the vision of Syria, disintegration of Syria, very much on the card to keep Syria weakening. So I think we may have in the Syria feeling that of jubilation that these sanctions will help us in ease the harsh reality of 15 years of suffering for the people of Syria. I think the actual gainer in this one is the United States and Israel.
Well, that's a very important point, Dr. Awad, that you make, that the real gainer over here is the United States of America and Israel, with Trump pushing al-Shara, the president of Syria, to normalize ties with Israel. Thank you so much for joining us here with that perspective. Now, there is a growing clamor among Indians for a ban on Turkish goods and travel ban to Turkey and Azerbaijan. This after Turkey and Azerbaijan came out in support of Pakistan following India's launch of Operation Sindoor.
Turkey does it again. Despite the recent earthquake assistance and growing engagement with Ankara, Turkey sided with its all-weather ally Pakistan post Operation Sindoor. Erdogan's stand has created a massive outrage in India.
Yesterday, we had an important phone call with Pakistan's Prime Minister. We find Pakistan's proposal for an international investigation into the heinous terrorist attack in Jammu and Kashmir valuable. Despite those pouring fuel on the fire, we as Turkey are making every effort to reduce tensions and open channels of dialogue before events reach a point of no return.
Indians have called for boycotting travel to Turkey and Azerbaijan, recent popular tourist spots for Indians. Anger grew over Turkey's support to Pakistan as Indian Army revealed that Turkey had sent Turkish-made drones to Pakistan.
The possible purpose of these large-scale aerial intrusions were to test the AD systems and gather intelligence. Forensic examination of the drone debris is being undertaken. Preliminary reports suggest them to be of Aziz Guard Songa drone of Turkey.
Latest reports have confirmed the death of at least 2 Turkish drone operators in Indian airstrikes on Pakistan.
You can see some quadcopters and you can see one odd Sonka drone hanging by the wire. All these have been brought down by our trained crew and air defense systems.
The Yeha drones are of Turkish origin.
Travel agencies have paused booking to these countries, citing national sentiments.
It is our duty to put out a travel cautionary note to all our users to say that please go to neutral destinations and not Turkey and Azerbaijan. And the results are boycott Turkey is trending online right now. The results are many other travel agents have followed our suit. And the results are 22% bookings are cancelled by passengers themselves.
Indians feel that Turkey has forgotten Operation Dost when India helped the country during the 2023 earthquake. Even the opposition has come out against Turkey's support and slammed them for supplying arms to Pakistan. India and Turkey have trade ties. In 2024 and 25, India's exports to Turkey stood at $5.2 billion, which was down from $6.65 billion in 2023 and 24. This accounts for less than 1.5% of India's total exports. Imports from Turkey were worth $2.84 billion in 2024 and 25. compared to $3.78 billion in 2023 and 24, just 0.5% of India's total imports. Turkey received around 62.2 million foreign tourists in 2024, with approximately 300,000 coming from India. India has now blocked Turkish state broadcaster TRT World on X for spreading fake news and pro-Pakistan propaganda. Similarly, China's Global Times has also been blocked by India for spreading misinformation. Bureau Report, India Today.
That's all in this edition of World Today. Thank you for watching. Goodbye and take care.